welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for joining me this week. I'm really excited to see what the runes have to say for the week ahead. And of course, before we get into things, a little bit about the astrological weather that we have for the upcoming week. So we have a very beautiful movement of signs. We had Venus and Mercury have both been in Sagittarius for the past few weeks, but this week, starting tomorrow, Mercury moves first and then Venus will follow just a day after, if I'm not mistaken. Both planets will move into the sign of Capricorn. So we're going to be seeing a lot more emphasis on grounding our relationships, grounding our connections, finding more practicality in our long-term goals and visions, finding ways in which not only our relationships, but our business practices and also our communication practices are refocused towards more practical means and ends. So it's going to be really cool. Think of it like, like what comes to mind is ideas about a business venture or concepts that are coming up for you, or perhaps you may have a spark of inspiration about how to make something happen in your life. Or let's say you have an idea for a business model that you haven't taken the time to really sit down and talk about or to connect with. This time period of Venus and Mercury being in Capricorn is going to be this, is going to lend itself towards creating those business models, towards really putting into practice what you preach. That's just the word, like the phrase that came to mind. We also have a full moon in Gemini, so for those of you who have a Gemini moon like myself, this could be a very emotional time for you. Not in a bad way, just emotional in the sense of coming back into your emotional center, finding yourself inspired to research something that you've been thinking about researching for a while, or receiving a lot of messages in the dream time, in dream space, or messages through conversation. So this week is really about communication, listening to messages, receiving messages, and being cognizant of the ways in which the universe has its own secret language to speak with us, which is kind of cool. And I think it's really, I like that idea, right? That the universe is always speaking to us in a secret language. So, you know, the more that you speak to the universe, the more that you're able to understand it. So let's see what the runes have to say for the energies that we have upcoming. You feel a lot of inspiration. Some of us have been feeling very weighted emotionally, maybe a little bit heavy. It feels like we're carrying a lot in our heart space, carrying a lot in the back of our mind. It's kind of like keeping many things on the back burner, right? So this is a time to release those fears and worries, or acknowledge them, sit down with them, speak with them, ask them their name, ask them where they came from, right? Have a conversation with your fears, have a conversation with these things, because it's been heavy. I'm also feeling that a lot of us have been closing cycles or finding ourselves in particular loops, whether those loops are emotional, spiritual, or otherwise. And what I mean by a loop is essentially a particular mnemonic practice based upon your memories of the past or the experiences that you've had before, and making similar decisions based on those memories. For example, saying to yourself, you know, I've always done X, and because I've always done X, I will always continue to do X. Or I've always experienced, you know, romantic relationships as being detrimental or problematic, right? And so it's always going to be that way. these are the kind of loops that we get ourselves in, right? Because we're basing our current experiences off of what we expect from past experiences. And so our expectations are very much colored by our memory and what we remember from those experiences. So this week we're being asked to release those loops, to release those expectations, to realize that it's unfair to apply those expectations of past experiences onto a new and fresh experience. We can use them as means of understanding and as a source of knowledge and wisdom for recognizing when certain patterns may be arising again. But we cannot find comfort in things always being a certain way. So that's a very specific message for some of us, for those of you out there that it may resonate with, because again, it's a general reading. So take what sticks, right? Take what hits home is what I hear. So I have a rune here that fell on my lap, but we'll get into that in a second, because I feel like the runes that fall in the lap are kind of like blessings that spirit are placing on you. Like they're just like, here, this is yours, you can have this. Now just take it, right? So we'll get to that in a second. But first I find that in the middle of the rune table we have Kenos. So Kenos is a very beautiful rune. It's one of the 3 fire runes for those of you who are who frequent the channel. Thank you. Thanks for coming back. I really appreciate it. But yes, Kenos is a fire rune, but it is the torch. It is the inspiration that we carry in our heart. It is the ignition of our intuition. And it's that feeling that you get when you feel joy and excitement for something new. And so I'm feeling that this week is a week of ignition, a week of finding our spark again, feeling inspired once more to try things out again, or to take a chance on life, or to take a chance on ourselves, perhaps in ways that we may not have been comfortable doing before. So for the next couple days, it feels like really honing in on what brings you joy, what brings you happiness, even if it's small, even if it's something small. What stirs that fire in the gut? What pokes at the embers there that gives you that feeling of like, okay, I like that idea, or that idea feels significant to me in some way. And then allowing yourself to really dive into it. Then over the weekend into next week, because again, these are the next couple days, right? Because we only have 2 runes that fell out. So these 2 runes are coloring the energy of the week ahead. Then we have Ehwaz that fell in reverse. So Ehwaz falling in reverse to me feels like a sort of emotional stagnation. That's not always a bad thing. Sometimes we do need to slow down. Sometimes we do need to take an opportunity to rest, or to reflect, or to come up against an obstacle and give ourselves an opportunity to reflect on why that obstacle is there. It feels to me that whatever obstacle we may be coming up against over the weekend is one that has been inside of us for a really long time. It's an obstacle that is connected to the way in which we engage with our emotions. It feels more emotional and more mental than it does a physical obstacle, right? So for example, again, speaking to those old patterns that we may have in the back of our mind, or the old patterns and the old phrases that we would use to speak about ourselves. For example, I used to say for myself that I'm not beautiful, right? And of course, many of us have gone on that journey of acknowledging our beauty, of acknowledging not only our beauty physically, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And we all get to that space where we acknowledge our beauty at some point, because beauty is not a quantifiable quality of something. Beauty is an essence. Beauty is a feeling. Beauty is the way that you carry yourself, right? And beauty is connected to the grace of one's soul. And that energy is not for everyone, right? I said to a friend of mine earlier today that people may bite the fruit, but it may be bitter, right? Bitter is the fruit that they bite into. For some, and for others, it may be sweet. right? We're not made for everyone. And so beauty is not necessarily something that is, that has to keep everyone in mind. Beauty has to keep in mind itself, has to keep itself in grace and in honor. So as an example, I used to tell myself that I wasn't beautiful. And I had to really take a moment to reflect on where that concept came from. Where did that phrase begin? Why did I feel that way? And slowly but surely shift my perspective to recognize my beauty. And that removed a lot of obstacles for myself. Those obstacles being self-sabotaging behavior, or behavior that is associated with preventing myself from moving forward in whatever way it was. So this ehwas in merkstav position feels very much like those mental gymnastics that we go through, those emotional hurdles that we put in front of ourselves because of old experiences that we've had. So this week ahead is really about reigniting our emotional passion for ourselves, reigniting our gut feeling, our joy, our happiness, and coming to address those emotional obstacles that may prevent us from really carrying this torch forward. So I hope that resonates with you guys. And now quickly, because I was like about to close it, I was like, that's it for today. But then I remembered this rune. We have Sowilo that had fallen on my lap. Sowilo is the one of the 3 fire runes as well. So a lot of fire this week. For those of you who are connected to fire, it may be a good time to connect to that element, lighting a candle for your intentions, lighting a candle for yourself. For those of us who have access to, safely have access to starting a fire as a bonfire or like a fireplace outside or in the home, it may be nice to tend the flame for a night and to give yourself time to sit before the fire, whatever that may be, because fire is a very powerful element that helps us transform. So Wilo is the rune of the sun. It's connected to joy, positivity, happiness, life goals, and perspectives. So it feels like the sun is with you. The energy of the sun is inside of you. And you have that choice to shine that light, not only for yourself, but also for others. So I hope that resonates for you guys. I hope that sits well with you. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe. It really does help. And of course, I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Happy full moon in Gemini. And I hope the new transits of Venus and Mercury bring you great blessings. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.